Level 1. The claim. The accident happens on a Tuesday night in an empty parking lot behind a grocery store that closes at 9. You picked the lot 3 days earlier. You drove through it twice. No cameras on the south side. One streetlight out above the fourth row. A concrete divider running along the back wall at the right height. You measured it with your eyes the second time you drove through. You knew before you left that you were coming back. You come back at 11:15. The lot is empty. You drive to the fourth row. You line the car up with the divider. You sit there for a moment with the engine running and both hands on the wheel, and you think about the number. $12,000 in medical bills from a surgery that your policy was supposed to cover and didn't. $800 a month behind on rent. A credit card statement you stopped opening 3 weeks ago because the number on it stopped being a number and started being a feeling. You think about all of that. Then you take your foot off the brake. The car rolls into the divider at 7 miles an hour. It doesn't feel like much. A thud. A crunch of plastic at the front left corner. The airbags don't deploy. You sit in the driver's seat for 30 seconds listening to the engine idle, and then you get out and look at the damage. The bumper is cracked. The quarter panel is pushed in. The headlight housing is broken on the left side. You take 12 photographs from 6 different angles. You call the non-emergency police line and report a hit and run in the parking lot of the grocery store. An officer arrives 22 minutes later. He is not suspicious. Nobody is suspicious of a hit and run in a parking lot at night. He writes a report. He gives you the case number. You thank him and drive home at 15 miles an hour because the headlight is gone on the left side. You file the claim the next morning online. Model year, mileage, policy number, case number from the police report. Description of the incident. Another vehicle struck your parked car and left the scene. You upload the 12 photographs. Under damages, you list the front bumper, the left quarter panel, and you pause here for a moment before you type it. Possible frame damage that will need to be assessed by a qualified technician. The adjuster calls 2 days later. Her name is Sandra. She has a flat, patient voice that tells you she does this 40 times a day. She asks where the vehicle was parked. You tell her. She asks if you saw anything. You tell her no, you were inside the store. She asks if you have any additional documentation. You tell her you have the police report. She says she'll have someone out to look at the car within 5 business days. The inspector arrives on a Thursday afternoon. He is thorough in the way that people are thorough when they have 17 other appointments. He walks around the car. He takes his own photographs. He crouches down and looks at the quarter panel. He asks if the car has had any prior damage in that area. You say no. He nods. He types something into a tablet. He is there for 11 minutes. The estimate comes back at $6,200. You read it twice. You were expecting 4. The frame assessment added $1,800. You didn't know about the frame assessment. You feel something that takes you a moment to identify as luck. The check arrives 11 days after the claim. $6,200 made out to you and the lien holder of the vehicle. You call the lien holder. They release their interest for a fee of $40 and a notarized form you print at the library. You deposit the check. You pay 2 months of rent. You pay the minimum on the credit card. You have $1,900 left over. You fix the car yourself. You buy a used bumper from a salvage yard for $280. You find a replacement headlight assembly online for $65. A body shop friend straightens the quarter panel for cash, $200, no paperwork. Total repair cost, $545. The car looks exactly the way it looked before Tuesday night. You sit at your kitchen table the Sunday after the repair is done, and you do the math on a piece of paper. 6,200 in. 545 out. Net, $5,655. For one night in a parking lot and 11 minutes with an inspector who had 16 other appointments. You fold the paper. You put it in a drawer. You tell yourself it was a one-time thing. A correction. The insurance company had denied your surgery, and you had taken back what was owed. That was how you thought about it. A correction, not a plan. 3 months later, the credit card statement arrives again. You open it this time. The number has grown. You take the piece of paper out of the drawer. You unfold it. You look at the math. You start looking for parking lots. Level 2. The network. The second accident happens 3 weeks after the first. Different parking lot. Different borough. Different car. A rental you paid cash for at a place that doesn't ask questions. The note you wrote to yourself before you left said one thing. Do not use your own vehicle again. You didn't. The second claim is cleaner than the first. You know the process now. You know what adjusters listen for and what they write down and what they don't. You know that soft tissue injuries are harder to disprove than a cracked bumper. You add a neck strain to the second claim, 2 chiropractic sessions, and a prescription anti-inflammatory. You find a walk-in clinic 6 miles from your apartment that takes cash and doesn't ask why you're paying out of pocket. The doctor there, a man named Jim who has been managing a practice on a fraying shoestring for 11 years, listens to you describe the accident and the neck pain and nods and writes the prescription and charges you $80 and stamps your visit summary with a code that will mean soft tissue cervical strain on any insurance form that receives it. $7,400. 11 days. You run 2 more claims over the next 4 months. Different vehicles, different locations, different injury descriptions. You start to understand the architecture of the thing. The claim is not the product. The documentation is the product. The injury is real on paper because the paper says it is, and paper is what insurance companies read. Jim asks you at the 3rd visit if you are feeling better. You say yes. He nods. He does not look up from the form. You bring Rob in because you need a lawyer, and Rob has been a personal injury attorney for 9 years and has filed more soft tissue claims than he can count and has a particular understanding of which insurance carriers settle quickly and which ones investigate and how long the gap is between those 2 categories of company. You meet him at a bar near his office on a Wednesday evening, and you explain what you have been doing, and you watch his face to see where it lands. It lands in the right place. Rob's job is to file the claims, field the adjuster calls, negotiate the settlements, and take 30% of everything that comes in. He doesn't ask you to keep records. He keeps records. His records are immaculate. His filing system is color-coded. He has a separate phone for this work and a separate email and a name he uses for the correspondence that is not his name. The operation now has a shape. You find the participants, people who need money and are willing to sit in a car during a staged accident and describe back pain to a doctor and sign a form and wait 6 to 8 weeks for a check. You pay them $1,500 flat. Jim bills for 12 weeks of treatment that takes 45 minutes across 2 actual visits. Rob files the claim, manages the carrier, and collects the settlement. You coordinate everything. You find the lots. You pick the dates. You manage the participants. 8 claims over 6 months. Average settlement, $11,000. Total intake, $88,000. Jim takes his billing rate. Rob takes his 30%. Participants take their $1,500. You keep the rest. The participants are the variable you didn't plan for. You thought money would make them stable. It makes some of them stable. A man named Terry talks about the accident at a family dinner 3 weeks after his check clears. His cousin asks how the neck is healing. Terry says, "What neck?" The cousin asks what he means. Terry says he's fine. He was always fine. The money was just, and then he stops. The cousin doesn't do anything with this information. But Terry tells you about the conversation the next day, and you spend that night thinking about what a cousin does with a story like that. You tighten the participant selection. You look for people with fewer connections, people who understand what signing a form means, people for whom $1,500 represents a month of decisions rather than a dinner table story. You ask Rob to add a non-disclosure clause to the participant agreement. Rob says these agreements aren't legally binding in this context. You say add it anyway. He does. The operation runs. The money comes in. Jim stops asking if you're feeling better. Level 3. The operation. The tow yard comes first. Not because you planned it that way, because a tow yard is where everything starts. Every accident, real or staged, begins with a call to a tow company. The car goes somewhere. You decide to be the somewhere. You find the yard through Rob. A small operation on the south side, 12 bays. A dispatcher named Greg who has been answering phones for 6 years and doesn't ask why the same 3 numbers keep showing up on the referral sheets. You buy it through a shell company Rob sets up in 3 days. The yard has 11 existing accounts with body shops and insurers. You keep them all. You add 1 more. The referral network works like this. A car gets towed to your yard. The dispatcher, Greg, still, same desk, same coffee mug, nothing changes on his end, runs the insurance check and flags any policy with a personal injury rider. Those files go to a folder. That folder goes to the operator. The operator makes a call. The call is to Rob. Rob files a soft tissue claim before the car clears the intake bay. You no longer recruit participants. The participants come to you. They are the drivers and passengers of real accidents who arrive shaken and confused at your yard and are met by the operator, a man with a shaved head and steady hands who has worked tow yards for 8 years and knows exactly how to talk to someone who has just had their car hit. He is calm. He is helpful. He gives them Jim's number. He says Jim is good. He says Jim is fast. He says Jim takes walk-ins. Jim's clinic has moved. It is no longer a fraying shoestring operation on a quiet commercial street. It is a proper space now, 3 rooms, a reception desk, a sign above the door. Jim has a billing coordinator. The billing coordinator's job is to ensure that every patient who comes through the door leaves with a coded visit summary and a referral for follow-up treatment. The follow-up treatment is billed whether it happens or not. Jim signs the billing sheets on Fridays. He does not review them line by line. Rob's office has also changed. He has a paralegal now. The paralegal manages the claim pipeline: intake, adjuster correspondence, settlement negotiation, disbursement. Rob reviews the settlements. He signs the checks. He does not ask where the patients come from. He has learned that the answer to that question is always the same and never useful. The circle is closed. Car comes in. Operator makes the call. Jim sees the patient. Rob files the claim. Settlement arrives. The yard gets a referral fee. Jim gets his billing rate. Rob gets his 30%. You get the rest. Nobody in the circle knows the full shape of it. Greg doesn't know about Rob. Jim doesn't know about the yard. The operator knows about all of it and says nothing because the operator is the only person in the circle you pay enough to make silence the obvious choice. 14 months. 231 claims. 3 insurance carriers. 1 carrier begins declining soft tissue claims originating from your zip code at a rate 3 times higher than the previous year. You note this and route the next 8 claims through a zip code 2 miles east. The carrier resumes paying. You are not in any of it. Your name is on the shell company that owns the yard, and the name on the shell company is not your name. You receive disbursements through a third account that connects to the shell through a transfer Rob's paralegal processes on the last Thursday of every month. You have not walked into a bank, staged an accident, described neck pain to a doctor, or signed a claim form in 14 months. You are sitting in your apartment doing nothing in particular when the operator calls and tells you one of the adjusters came to the yard in person, not for an inspection, to ask Greg about the referral patterns. Greg told her he doesn't handle referrals. She left a card. You look at the card number the operator reads to you. You write it down. You sit with it for a while. Then you call Rob. Level 4. The pattern. Rob doesn't answer when you call. That's the first thing that's wrong. Rob always answers. You call again. Voicemail. You send a text. Nothing. You sit at the kitchen table with the phone face up in front of you, and you think about the card the adjuster left at the yard, and you think about the question she asked Greg, and you think about how long it takes an insurance company to go from a question to a decision. It takes longer than you think. That's what you tell yourself. You pour a coffee. You put the phone down. You tell yourself Rob is in a meeting. The adjuster who visited the yard is named Sophia. She works in the Special Investigations Unit of the carrier that started declining your zip code claims. Special Investigations Units don't send people to tow yards to ask about referral patterns unless they already know the answer to the question. You don't know this yet. You will. Sophia has been building a file for 11 weeks. It started with a spreadsheet. She pulled every soft tissue claim filed against her carrier in a 14-mile radius over 18 months. She sorted them by tow company, by clinic, by law firm. The same 3 names appeared in 206 of the 231 claims. The tow yard, Jim's clinic, Rob's office, 206 out of 231. That is not a coincidence. That is a system. She filed a referral to the National Insurance Crime Bureau 4 weeks before she visited the yard. The NICB opened a joint investigation with 2 other carriers who had been declining the same cluster of claims. They had been declining them independently, each one thinking it was a local problem. Sophia showed them it was the same problem in 3 different spreadsheets. The undercover investigators start coming to Jim's clinic 6 weeks before the raid. They come as patients. Real appointments. Real intake forms. Jim's billing coordinator processes them the same way she processes everyone. Coded visit summaries. Follow-up referrals. Jim signs the billing sheets on Friday without reading them. He signs 3 investigators' names without knowing. The investigators photograph the coded summaries. They record the intake process. They count the billing entries for sessions that never happen. Rob's paralegal is arrested at 7:45 on a Tuesday morning in the parking garage beneath Rob's building. She has a laptop with her. On the laptop is the full claim pipeline. Every file, every settlement, every disbursement, color-coded by case, archived back to the beginning. Rob is arrested in the elevator at 7:48. He is carrying a coffee. He is going to work. He does not understand what is happening until the agents say the name of the holding company, and then he understands everything at once. The operator is arrested at the yard. He is guiding a car into Bay 7 when the vehicles arrive. He puts both hands up before they say anything. He has been waiting for this longer than anyone. Greg watches from the dispatcher window. He still doesn't know what any of it was about. Jim is arrested at the clinic at 8:15. He is between patients. His billing coordinator is taken in for questioning and released. She cooperates fully. She didn't know. She processed what she was given. The investigators spend 4 hours in the filing room going through everything the billing coordinator processed without knowing what it was. You are not at the yard. You are not at the clinic. You are not at the law office. You are at your kitchen table when your phone shows Rob's name. Not Rob calling. A detective using Rob's phone to see if anyone answers. You don't answer. You sit very still. You look at the phone until it stops ringing. Then you look at the form on the table. The form you've been filling out for the past hour. A new shell company. A different state. A tow yard 200 miles north that came up in a search you ran 3 days ago. You've been careful. You're always careful. You pick up the pen. There is a knock at the door.